Ian with eTrailer here, and today we're going to be taking a look at and installing the Curt custom wiring harness on our 2015 Audi Q5. Let's go over a couple features of that harness and then do the install. This harness is going to feature a normal 4-pole flat connector, which is going to give you the options for that turn signal, tail light, and then the brake lights as well. Just as any standard 4-pole would, does feature a module that is in line with this harness that's going to offer some protection to your OEM harness. That way, if there's any type of short or back feed coming back from the trailer, your OEM harness here in the vehicle is still protected. This harness is going to feature more than enough of that 4-pole wiring to be able to hook up to any short lead you may have on your trailer or accessory. And then you can run this outside of the vehicle and then include a connection point where you would have that mounted to the outside of the vehicle, or what we've done for this neighbor is got it set up to where the tailgate can be closed with this still functioning, and then when not in use can just be tucked away in this little pocket where the compressor normally lives. Now I'm going to walk you through the entire process of hooking this up, and there's quite a bit of plastics we'll need to take apart here in the vehicle. If you don't already have a hitch, I would definitely suggest doing both of these at the same time, because all of the plastics we're going to be removing are about the same other than the fascia coming off for the hitch. So we'll get all that removed, we'll walk through the process, and if you happen to watch this and think to yourself, I don't want to try to tackle that, or I just don't have the time at the moment, please do check out our dealer locator on the website. We'd be happy to find you a trained professional in your local area that can get this set up for you. But for all those DIYers, let's go ahead and hop into that install. We're going to begin with the tailgate open, and we need to remove the panels here in the back to include any small buckets or anything you've got around that spare tire. We are going to be pulling the spare tire and compressor out of the way. Now to remove that, it does have this compressor attached, so you'll just want to squeeze the outside clips of that harness and start to work that down into the hole where it's going to come up on the spare tire. Take the handle loose here and the whole assembly should come out. Just make sure you're paying attention to this harness, that it doesn't get caught on anything on the way out. Now we can come to this scuff panel assembly at the tailgate. We're going to be pulling up on that, but you do want to keep in mind there's an additional harness for the latch that's attached to that. So we'll just want to get it loose to start. And once it's loose, we'll rock it forward to access the harness. And it's that same exact type of connector that was on the spare tire. You'll just squeeze those two tabs, wiggle that loose, and set this panel aside. On each side of the vehicle, we are going to be removing these side trim panels as well. Those are T30 Torx bits holding each of those hangers on. So you'll want to remove those hangers, and then those panels will come out after. And once you've got those hooks off of there, you should be able to just pull the panel straight out from both sides. And they are latched at the end, so you may just have to kind of turn them sideways and they'll both come out. And again, set those aside. Now on the driver's side, we're going to have this panel that is just a quarter turn retention point up at the top. We'll take that loose. Now we will lift up on our battery box cover to access that. We're just going to pull that cover off and fold this larger panel out of the way. At the battery, we're going to be isolating two wires off of that control module, the black wire that turns into our fused link, and then the white wire. And we'll need to just have those routed to the battery as best as we can. We can use the ground somewhere, just tapping that in with the self-tapper, and we'll kind of figure out if we need to do that since we're kind of limited on space. But we're going to just have that routed, have our box tucked out of the way as much as possible. Yeah, even looking at this now, it looks like the negative would be too short and we'd have to extend it. So we're going to end up using a factory ground somewhere. So we'll just tuck that one with the box for now. We're going to also route the 4-pole connector the exact same way that we've ran that ground and where we tuck the box up into. So we'll just route that up and through. There's a panel that lives here that's going to be easily removable, so that's going to be the best place for this to be able to be accessible once all of the trim panels are back in place. We're then going to come to our driver's side at the release handle for the seat. Now we're going to pull back the weather stripping up towards the top here all the way to our hinge and coming all the way down to our felt. So we'll need to just yank all this loose and allow that to sit, and we should be able to start to push away with this. May need a trim panel tool. We're just going to be coming from the bottom all the way to right here. There's actually a retention screw that we're going to remove on the tan part, so we just want to pry up to here. And from the bottom, we're just going to keep working our way up here. And at the top here, we're going to have a little plastic push pin that we can remove as well. So we just need to pry away at that one, making sure we retain that push pin. And we're going to take the ends that are intended for the tail lights and route those wires up along all of the plastics we just pulled loose, and then back behind our tan plastic, and you can kind of worm that wiring, make it go back behind in that little pocket that we're going to be using. Up around the corner, and we're trying to get to this hinge is the intention, so you'll have to just kind of slowly work your way up to it, slightly prying back on these plastics. We'll go all the way up and around, and then just leave those to hang for now. Now, since all the tail lights and turn signals and everything are in the tailgate, we do need to start accessing some of the panels for those. It's going to be the 3 panels that are pretty obvious going across the back. So we've got our one here on the driver's side, our one here on the passenger side, and then the one in the center's just got a little twist release that we'll pull out, and then that drops out of the way. Now, in each pocket of the tail light harness, we're going to have a T20 that we'll need to remove. There's just a single one on those. And in the center, we've got 2 T20s that we'll need to take out with those. With those screws removed, we can start to work that panel away. I would suggest reaching up in one of the pockets and pulling away first. We're going to watch out because there are some harnesses attached to the lights and things like that. So we'll just pull both of the edges away first and then take a look at the center to see what we need to remove. So on the driver's side, we've got a harness here for the light in the tailgate, and then on the passenger side, we've got the switch. So we'll just get both of those disconnected, and then we'll be able to pull this panel out of the way. We'll then pull the trim panel up around the window away, and I wanted to mention something about these clips because I've had 2 or 3 of them come off as we've been going into this. Don't panic if those get stuck in there. Just use a trim panel tool, get up on both sides of it, pull that back out, and then they can just slide right back into the plastics. You're not breaking anything by having those come loose. They're just smaller metal clips and not really meant to be pulled apart. But we're going to continue to pull all the way down to our plastic here at the hinge, and we'll start to work that away. And that one will snap loose pretty quick once you get it. And we're going to be using that exact same routing that we see here with the wiring. And we're going to go ahead and start to kind of get an idea of how we want this. We don't want to secure any of the wires yet because we still need to find a place for that box to live. But this will at least get our wires up through the hinge safely and then routed up to the lights. So obviously our green wire is going to be the guy going over to the passenger side. We've got this combination wire here that's going to be going to our driver's side. And to remove that factory clip, we'll just push down on this little tab right here and pull outwards. And then that factory plug will just click right into the harness, and we'll do the same with the other end going into the light receptacle. And we'll take that green wire with our ends and come over to the passenger side, remove that plug, and plug that in the exact same way. Now we're going to work from the passenger side going all the way back. We're going to zip tie this to any existing looming that we can find. I'm going to get that all squared away and I'll show you my routing. Starting on our passenger side here, I've got that zip tied to the factory harness coming out of that pocket, following that across back behind our latch system, and then again coming to the factory harness all the way down that column. I left just a little bit loose to the driver's side because when we push this plastic back up into place, that's going to put pressure on that harness, so just a little bit extra there for that. But then continue to follow the factory harnessing down to our hinge. Now the hinge, we are going to be throwing just a couple zip ties on the inside here so that way it stays stationary while it's moving. Now working our way back down, since we've got the harness secured at least to this point, you'll see that we've lost quite a bit of wiring where we had the box originally placed down on the floor down there, but of course since we had to run all the way across the tailgate and up that hinge, this is about all we've got left. So if we look at this module that they've got hooked up right here, there is a 10mm nut on the back of this module that we'll be able to remove, and I'm actually going to put that stud right through the box and then put the nut back on top to secure that here out of the way. Now we need to secure the ground, so we'll just make sure we've got that out, and you just want to pick a good flat metal spot and run that self tapper that comes with the kit through that eyelet. Here on our positive side, we're just going to pull up on the little plastic panel that's covering that up, and there's a 10mm nut on the end that holds that secure, so we'll just make sure we back that out, but keep that positive post on there. And we can take that eyelet and just put a little cut in that to be able to slide it over the shaft. That nut won't back out all the way. They've got the end of that shaft crimped to keep it secure, so just cut that little slice in it, push that down into place, and then take your 10mm socket and tighten it back up. We'll bend that down out of the way. That way if we want to put this clasp back down as much as possible to cover that up, we can do so. We're going to take the 15 amp fuse and place that into the holder. And we'll put that cap on there for now. And then before we put any plastics back, we are going to give that a test here. Now we've got the fascia off because we are putting a hitch on at the exact same time. If you're going to be putting a hitch on along with your wiring, now would be the time to do that. It's also going to be the best time to be able to access everything you need to take the fascia off to put that hitch on. But as far as just the wiring by itself, we just need to go ahead, get everything buttoned up, back together and where it needs to be, and then we can test that to make sure it's functioning as intended. Now the last thing we need to do is just double check that this is going to function. With these 2015 around that year models, you do have to have that rear latch closed with all those sensors hooked up before it will function. So I wanted to make sure to note that. But just running through our tests here, we've got our brake lights, that left turn signal, our right turn signal, and then with our running lights on and those running lights back off. And that's going to do for our look at and installation of the Curt T1 custom wiring harness on our 2015 Audi Q5. My name's Ian and I really appreciate you watching.